The search for Chief Justice continues here in Kenya, and Philip Murgor was facing the panel at the Supreme Court building. The exercise, which began on Monday, is seeking to find a suitable candidate to replace the former Chief Justice David Maraga, who retired in January. And it's a report we've been following up for you. It's the fifth day since that exercise began, and of course we will be seeing and keenly following up on who the panel picks to replace David Maraga. Welcome to this broadcast this afternoon, and let's now begin with the Education Affairs. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has defended the integrity of the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examinations. Magoha says the government has effectively dealt with loopholes that had previously been exploited by cheats to compromise the national exam. The marking of the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examination papers are expected to get underway as soon as the final paper is written next week.
A day after releasing KCPE results, Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha has expressed confidence in the education reforms guiding the conduct of the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examination. Speaking in Naivasha on Friday, after supervising the opening of the exams container, the CA said that all security measures were in place ahead of the marking process.
In terms of the security of teachers that are going to mark the examination, the government of the Republic of Kenya has decided that we shall vaccinate as many of those that is possible, depending on the availability of the vaccines, but we shall start transporting them anytime next week because this process is going to go on.
The marking of the KCSE exam papers will take 3 weeks once the national exams end next week. Meanwhile, the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers Busia branch has called on the Ministry of Education to facilitate the travel of teachers to exam marking centers.
Tunasisitiza ya kwamba waziri pamoja na CEO wa NEC, they take an urgent measure kuhakikisha ya kwamba maslahi ya watahini yatakuwa sawasawa, na la sivyo venye katibu amesema watahini wengi wasifike Nairobi kwa sababu maslahi yao hayatakuwa yanaangaliwa.
If not, we are afraid that very few examiners might turn up for marking, hence jeopardizing this national exercise.
KUPPET says teachers cannot be left to cater for their mode of transport, considering the ongoing restrictions on movement in some counties. Ruth Wamboi for Channel 1 News.
Congratulations to those who emerged winners, and of course all the candidates who sat for the examinations last year. It was a time when they sat amid a COVID-19 pandemic, and the improvement is just a show of resilience. Now to other news, pupils living in informal settlements of Aldina and Mikindani in Jomvu Sub-County, Mombasa County have beaten all odds to excel in the 2020 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examinations. The school is only institution serving both primary and secondary students from thousands of families living in Aldina slums in Jomvu Sub-County.
Tucked into the heart of the densely populated Aldina slums in Jomvu Sub-County, Mombasa County, Leeds School provides a ray of hope that illuminates the otherwise bleak future of the children in the informal sector. The school is only a beacon of hope in education, both primary and secondary, to about 20,000 families living in Aldina slums. Leeds School outperformed itself in the just released 2020 KCPE exams, the results sending the neighboring informal settlements into a frenzy. According to school's managing director, Elizabeth Nafula, despite the COVID-19 challenges, the school had a mean score of 372 marks out of 68 candidates, an improvement from 2019.
Kulikuwa na janga tangu mwaka jana, shule zikaweza kufungwa, lakini vijana hawa walikuwa na bidii sana na wakawa na tumaini, wakajua kwamba wataweza kukalia huu mtihani wa darasa la 8. Wanafunzi wa shule hii kwa kweli wamefanya vizuri. sawasawa na miaka iliyopita ya nyuma.
However, the number of candidates with 400 marks and above dropped from 15 in 2019 to 8 in 2020.
What I can say that with all that, our kids tried to do their revision at home, and at this day I can say we have seen their results. They have done very well.
14-year-old Solomon Chimera was the best performing pupil at the school with 404 marks.
During the school closure, it was not so easy that we were used to coming to school, but when the schools were locked, it was not an easy time. It was so rough that we had to just endure, and when we came back, we did so much so that we could cover the lost time.
In Mikindani Ward, informal settlement are 2 primary schools which cater for the education needs of about 57,000 families. St. Irene's Nursery and Primary School, a Catholic Church-sponsored school, was able to produce 3 pupils with 400 marks and above, with the highest scoring 418 marks, while second and third pupils got 404 and 403 marks respectively. Amani Primary School, a government-owned public school adjacent to St. Irene's Nursery and Primary School, was able to produce students scoring more than 400 marks. According to the school's head teacher, Richard Nduva, the school's best 2 pupils scored 406 and 403 marks respectively.
This year we had a very big number of 244 candidates, with the highest candidate being scoring 406 marks, the second one scoring 403.
And staying with the KCPE examinations, the results of the 2020 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education continue to be received with jubilation across the country. Despite the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, most pupils appear to have set their sights on the prize to post exemplary performance in the national examinations. And here are the highlights of the ensuing celebrations.
My dream school was Kenya High School. Sai, I want to thank my parents juu wamefanya sacrifice kubwa sana nikuwe kwenye niko sai.
I'd like to join Edinburgh High School because it has good facilities. It has helped me a lot. I joined in class 7 and yeah, it's a good school.
Nilipata 413 na walimu wangu ndo walikuwa wananisaidia na wazazi, na kupata hiyo alama inelibidi nisome kwa bidii usiku na mchana.
I managed to score 421 marks. I'm feeling so happy because I've passed. It was to my expectation, not that much, but I'm so happy. At least I've managed to score 400 and above marks.
I want to be a doctor in future, and I want to help those who are in need. Okay, Study Girls has been my aspiration since I was a kid, and I want to join it.
I school in the county school. I've got 410 marks. I'm so grateful to God for the fire taken me.
I want to thank this school for providing for me a conducive environment to read and to understand all that I'm reading.
Mudasa has been in existence for close to 29 years now, and we've been very consistent in what we are doing. We've always performed well, there is nothing new really to learn from us. We stay focused, our students are disciplined, and the most important is that God has got to be in your favor.
And the vetting exercise of candidates seeking to replace Justice David Maraga, who retired in January, began on Monday with Justice Said Juma Chitembwe facing the panel. And today it's Philip Murgor's turn. And let's now cross over to the Supreme Court buildings and listening to that interview session.
In an economy like ours, first of all, I agree, 100%. And it wasn't directed at me. That message was directed at you and your colleagues. You get it wrong. Before you find out that you are wrong, it will be 5 years down the line. Investments will have moved. Amongst so many other things, you will never pick up again, because the whole region and the whole continent is now awake. When we came up with Vision 2030, it might have been the first such program that people are discussing. But within months, years, every country in the region is chasing the same investment, chasing the same targets. So the responsibility on the part of the JSE is think beyond the normal things. Think, see the bigger picture, see where we would all like Kenya to be in 10 years.
Yes, I want you to tell us, do you fit the description here on ease of doing business? And can you give us 3, 4, 5 attributes that you have that will be assured that when you come in here, ease of doing business in this country, in as far as judicial, work is concerned, will be different in terms of the economic growth?
Business or business as a group, or investments as a category, have the greatest fears they have.
Right, and that's former Director of Public Prosecutions, Philip Murgor, facing the panel and trying to convince them how he'll be able to handle most of the things as the president, if elected or chosen as the next president of the Supreme Court of Kenya. And of course, KBC will be bringing you live proceedings. And he has a lot of competitors, including the first one who was interviewed on Monday, Chitembwe, and of course we had Martha Koome and Professor again, Patricia is part of the candidates facing or trying to replace Chief Justice David Maraga, who retired in January this year. Let's take our first commercial break. Tell us where you tuned in from at Purity_Museo and at KBC Channel 1 News. Lunchtime News is the hashtag to use. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. We are back shortly with more news. Stay with us.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye Quickbill ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitazama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka kwenye Quickbill ni la bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini. Talk of teams and teams behind the team. The chase for immediate FA Cup is on this weekend. Two eventful semi-final matches by England's leading lights are on the cards at Wembley Stadium. On Saturday, 17th of April, Chelsea will clash with Manchester City at 7:30 p.m. Meanwhile, Leicester City will battle it out with Southampton on Sunday, 18th of April at 8:30 p.m. Aptly put, as a team, there is a lot to play for. You either cruise to the finals or get drowned. Live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner. This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Mwanangu ni gazeti. Kwenda kwa gavana kunataka mahesabu. Kunataka mahesabu. Kwa sababu yule lazima ujue wale askari ni wangapi pale ndani ambao wanamlinda. Sasa ndio ushanka uoga. Jeshi gani anakuwa namna hiyo? Kwa nini kazi? Sasa nadhani sote tunaelewa kilichotuleta.
Hii ni KBC Radio Taifa.
Kila kitu maishani sina sauti yaleta furaha.
Radio.
Sauti ya elimisha yahimiza yatuleta pamoja. Sauti ya Kenya.
Radio Taifa.
Thank you so much for staying with Lunchtime News. Lucy Mwaura is a sign language interpreter, and an activist has moved to court seeking an order to stop the ongoing interviews for the appointment of the Chief Justice. Member Ocharo, through his lawyers Dunstan, Omari and Shadrach Wambui, says that the candidates who have been interviewed so far admitted that they did not fill the wealth declaration form as required by law.
Member Ocharo, an activist, has moved to court in a bid to stop the ongoing interviews for the search of new Chief Justice. Through his lawyers Dunstan, Omari and Shadrach Wambui, Ocharo has argued that vetting process has fallen way below the constitutional threshold. They added that the 5 candidates, Professor Patricia Mbote, Appellate Judge Martha Koome, Justice Saidi Chitembwe and Justice David Njagi Marete, have publicly admitted during their interviews that they did not fill wealth declaration forms as required by law.
5 of those who have been interviewed have admitted on national television that they never filed the forms, the wealth declaration forms for their spouses. So the question is, how did they qualify to be shortlisted for the interview?
They have also questioned why the interviews are being chaired by Professor Olive Mugenda in open defiance and insubordination of the Constitution and the statutory dictate that demand JSC affairs should either be chaired by the Chief Justice or his deputy.
Article 259(3)(b) of the Constitution says anybody who is vested with the powers to act substantively in a position where the holder has died or the holder is no longer able to sit shall chair. So by law, under Article 259 7C 3B, only Justice, Deputy Chief Justice, the acting Chief Justice can sit.
The file will be placed before a vacation judge, Justice Weldon Korir, for directions.
And in other news, the Kenya Red Cross Society is warning of a looming humanitarian crisis in many parts of the country occasioned by floods and drought. Kenya Red Cross Society Secretary General Dr. Aisha Mohammed says there is need to put in place adequate mitigation measures to avert the looming crisis. Over 1.4 million people are facing food crisis, according to a 2021 assessment by Kenya Food Security Steering Group. The ongoing rains have already caused flash floods in areas around Lake Victoria and Tana Delta, displacing hundreds of families.
It's really a call to action for all of us as well, to say that we have people who really need our support. As the Kenya Red Cross, we are looking initially at supporting 125,000 families to start off, those that are in very critical situation. And for us, we are looking at both responding to the floods and the drought. And under the floods, we are looking at provision of shelter, food, clean water, health and livelihood recovery. And also for drought, we are looking at the question of health, food and water. And for food, yes, I think it's a bit of a balance of both, where in-kind support, because we also are conscious that in some of the situations there may not even be a market.
Tunaendelea kujitayarisha tukikadiria kwamba tunahitaji zaidi ya milioni 800, yani milioni 315 ya kusaidia upande wa ukame na milioni 400, zaidi ya milioni 400 kusaidia kwa upande wa mafuriko.
And a section of leaders drawn from the Nyanza region has rallied residents of Kiambaa constituency behind the Building Bridges initiative. The leaders have implored on the locals to back the initiative in honor of their late MP Paul Koinange.
A section of Nyanza leaders joined by the Kikuyu Council of Elders paid a visit to the home of their late colleague Paul Koinange to eulogize with the family. The leaders using the opportunity to push for passage of the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020.
It is not an instrument for giving anybody power, nor is it an instrument for denying anybody power. It is an instrument to get a correction of the wrongs, the mistakes you have made.
Wiki ujao tutakuwa tumemalizana na hii jambo ya BBI katika bunge. Sasa tuwaletee kama wananchi ndio muamue, na sina budi kwamba watu wa Kiambaa, watu wote hapa watapiga yes.
This matter of the constitution, we finalize it and pass it to the people and get the people to deal with it as Paul Koinange would have wanted. Any other delay, whether with COVID or no COVID, is doing injustice to this thing.
The group backed a move by Koinange family to front Lena Mbiu Koinange for the vacant Kiambaa parliamentary seat.
The elders from this family can find a way of negotiating so that the people of Kiambaa do not have to go into an election just a few months into to the next general election.
Suleiman Yeri, Channel 1 News.
Let's now revisit the KCPE exam results story. And candidates with special needs recorded outstanding performance in the 2020 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, a much needed encouragement to parents and guardians of children living with disability. Brandon Otundo and Gibson Ndiema, who were first and second respectively in the special need category in the country, are a good example that indeed disability is not inability.
When Education CS Professor George Magoha announced the 2020 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education results on Thursday afternoon, Brandon Otundo, who hails from Kisii County, was calmly following the proceedings on television. Little did he know that his name would gain national acclaim after he was announced as the top candidate in the special needs category, having scored 420 marks.
I'm happy today because we've received these wonderful results. We've been waiting for them for long, for quite some weeks, because there have been rumors going on online about the specific dates for the results, but we are happy that today we have received them.
An elated Otundo, who has a challenge of short-sightedness, attributed his performance to encouragement from his parents and teachers.
My mom used to encourage me to study, and my brother, who is also in Form 4, so we used to have those study timetables and whatever, so it kept encouraging me to study, because I thought maybe the corona might get low and then we might go back to school.
Gladys Mora Otundo's mother said her son was optimistic of good results but did not imagine he would be the best.
Like Otundo, you don't need to tell him to read. Otundo will wake up, make his own timetable, and he will respect the timetable as if the teacher is around. So I can say first it was self-discipline from him and a little push from me as his parent so that he could achieve such a result.
Charles Mochama, the director of St. Green Hill Academy, where Otundo studied, described him as a polite, disciplined, and a consistent top performer.
This boy is a very humble boy. He was the best of the year in terms of discipline, what we call moral and character development. He was the best, and the best again in academics for the year and many years back since he joined us in PP1.
In Bungoma County, we meet the second best candidate in the special needs category. Gibson Ndiema, who was at Nalondo CBM, a special school, scored 411 marks in the 2020 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examinations.
Sasa usiseme siwezi, sema naweza. Napenda sana kufunza. Sasa niko nataka kuwa mwalimu. Hata nipite nikuwe lecturer.
His mother Evelyn could not hide her joy as she encouraged parents who have children with special needs to take them to school.
Hata kama una fees, hata kama uko na changamoto, mimi wakati nilipopokelewa hapa, nikawa naleta hata na kabe, naleta na sukuma, na mtoto aliendelea.
The school head teacher Agri Alirio said Ndiema had put the institution on the national map by his outstanding performance.
That boy deserves our hand, and we promise to support him because he has motivated the teachers, he has motivated even those who was behind him, and everybody. We are now steered even to greater heights.
Ruth Wamboi for Channel 1 News.
In other news, healthcare service delivery in Kisumu County has received a major boost following the donation of 3 vehicles to the county by Johns Hopkins Program for International Education in Gynecology and Obstetrics, a local non-government organization funded by United States Agency for International Development. Kisumu County Governor Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, while receiving the donation, lauded the support that USAID has offered to the region in strengthening its health sector. He said the donation of 3 Toyota Land Cruisers will go a long way in improving delivery of healthcare services in the county.
Reproductive health, maternal health, neonatal health, child and adolescent health in Kisumu County. This has been done through a number of programs which included Afya Lisi, which started in 2017. Some of the highlights of the support has been the renovation of our health facilities, which include Sondu and Sigoti dispensaries in Nyakach sub-county, Simba Opepu dispensary in Kisumu East, Chulaimbo sub-county hospital in Kisumu West, and Ahero sub-county hospital in Nyando.
And separately, a police officer who allegedly shot and killed a herder in Machakos County is set to undergo mental assessment before being charged for murder. Victor Kariuki has been in detention for the last 10 days as police probe the circumstances which led to the alleged shooting. The accused allegedly shot and killed a herdsman at a vet farm near Machakos Governor's office and then took himself to the Machakos police station to report the incident, where he was immediately put under arrest.
Where I find that it is unnecessary to delay the matter any longer.
And 2 dolphins and a turtle were found dead along the shores of the Indian Ocean in Kipini area, Tana Delta sub-county of Tana River County, in what is believed to be as a result of illegal trawlers fishing in the area. The Kenya wildlife officials, together with Kilipini Beach Management Unit members who were on patrol, came across 2 decomposing bodies of dolphins and later found the turtle, which had head injuries, and community members YouTubers and fishermen were urging the government to ban trawling activities as they are causing major destruction to marine life in the area.
Awadh Mbarak Hassan, a member of Kipini Beach Management Unit and environmentalist, said they found the dolphins at an area called Shekiko but could not carry them because they had completely decomposed and covered by sand along the shores of the Indian Ocean. As per the law, he said the trawlers are supposed to conduct fishing activities from 5 nautical miles and above, but surprisingly, the trawlers were fishing in shallow waters, thus threatening coral reefs and marine life.
Kuna madhara makubwa sana ikiwa serikali haitachukua hatua. Hivi sasa tumeteta miaka mingi. Twashukuru vile KWS kuwa hapa na tukuona jambo hili kutusaidia, kwa sababu jambo hili linaonekana wazi. Sasa tukuanza leo kulalamika sisi wakazi wa Kipini. Kwa muda wa miaka 20 iliyopita bado sisi tunaendelea kudorora na uvuvi kwa sababu ya uharibifu wa meli. Mbali na kuumiza rasilimali zetu, viumbe ambavyo viko hatari ya kuangamia pia vinaumia kama namna hii.
Hassan thanked the Kenya Wildlife Service for their support in helping in the fight against the illegal trawlers who are a menace in Ungwana Bay. According to Mohadhar Mohammed, Secretary of Kipini Beach Management Unit, cases of marine life being threatened are on the rise, and recently 2 dolphins were found dead in Shekiko area.
Sisi tunapinga kabisa meli kuvua katika hii bahari yetu kwa sababu wanazidisha umaskini kwetu sisi. Manake kila leo tunazidi kuwa maskini sisi kwa sababu ya meli zinazovua hapa. Wao wanapata faida kubwa, lakini wenyeji wa Kipini hawana chochote mpaka dakika hii.
Mohammed said they are ready to work with NGOs working in environmental conservation and other donors ready to preserve the marine life so as to prevent such massive destruction. Earlier this week, a ship MV Roberto belonging to an Italian was snapped doing illegal fishing in the shallow waters, and very small fish, including the endangered guitar fish, were found inside. The commander of the ship was arrested but is yet to be charged in court. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Jacinta Nyambura.
And in Machakos County, a section of residents in Joska is still crying for justice 4 months after demolition of their houses by a private developer who claimed to have bought their land. The aggrieved residents say attempts to repossess the land have been fruitless, and they are now appealing to the government to help them reclaim their land.
Residents in Joska area in Machakos County who were forced out of their land on 24th December last year after their houses were demolished took to the streets in protest. The angry protesters say they bought the 40 acres of land from Bukoni Limited Company 20 years ago and had a sale agreement.
26th of August 2013, na akasema in my hearing that shamba imerupwa na Bukoni, sababu tulienda na Bukoni na wengine, na akasema kwamba shamba vaiendeni hakuna deni. Hiyo ni kumaanisha hakuna deni. Kwa hivyo sisi tunashaka kama hakuna deni, kitu ilikuwa tu nitaito kuchukua kwa registrar ya land office ya Mavoko. Ilifanyika nini tena akauzia mtu mwingine?
Their efforts to get help from the relevant authorities have borne no fruits, as they claim the private developer has managed to sway police officers and their lawyer to his side.
Amelala ama ameungana na wezi wakuje kutuangamisha tukiwa tumemulipa pesa zetu. Kwa hivyo tunaomba serikali ifuatilie, wakili itake kujua shida ni nini. Kama members walikuwa wamemlipa pesa, huu mwisi alitoka wapi ndiye akakuja akatupomolea nyumba?
They say there was no eviction order served to them and they are not aware who sold their land, which they have occupied since 2000.
Owners in Kiambu County are appealing to the national and county governments to assist their staff with relief food after the closure of their premises following the third wave of COVID-19 disease. And Kiambu County Bar Owners Association Chairperson Joseph Kariuki further urged the national government to negotiate with financial institutions to waive loan interest and extend the loan repayment period, as many workers in the service industry have no other source of of income. At the same time, David Kariuki, the association's secretary, called on the government to consider bar owners and staff as frontliners workers and include them in the priority group for the COVID-19 vaccination program.
Ya COVID-19 tunasikia kuna hiyo kiti, lakini tungeomba serikali kwa kuhurumia wananchi wa kaunti hizi 5 kwa muda huu, tungeomba serikali kama ingeweza angalau kusaidia hawa wafanyabiashara na wafanyikazi wao kupata kitu kidogo, hata kama ni kwa weekly basis ama kwa mwezi. Kila mwezi angalau wawe wanapewa kitu kidogo ya kujimudu wakati huu mgumu.
Let's now have a look at some business. And 100 million shillings milk cooler has been commissioned in Dunduri, Nakuru County, promising to improve the quality of milk and reduce post-harvest losses of the produce. Area leaders say with completion of the cooling plant, dairy farmers will have a centralized place to store the milk.
The milk cooler has a capacity of 10,000 litres. Area residents are being challenged to embrace dairy farming as an economic enterprise to tap 10,000-litre capacity cooler as well as a ready market for the farm produce.
Yeah, about 15 million, pasteurizer about 15 million, generator about 20 million. So in this place utaona ya kwamba kutakuwa pumped pesa around 100 million within this locality.
Farmers and leaders are banking on the milk cooler to help reduce post-harvest losses and improve the market base of dairy cooperatives in the area.
Hivyo mimi naona economy ya hii area ikibadilika hata kwa ufugaji ambao utaweza kuwa. Na yale maneno ndio inakuwa targeted kwa youth na ina target wamama ambao wako area ambao pengine amekuwa tu analima mabuti ama anafanya kazi ambao haikuwa inalete mapato. Lakini ile tunataka kufanya ni kilimo biashara na kazi ambao wanaweza fanya.
The county government of Nakuru has pledged to finance the purchase of milk pasteurizers, dispensers and cooling systems in effort to boost value addition to stabilize farm gate prices.
Kwa hivyo ni kushukuru na shukuru hata serikali yetu kwa sababu hii mradi ni kama njia moja ya kuajiri vijana. Na mimi ningeuliza hata wazazi wale wako na mashamba kidogo, hii katia kijana yako badala ya kwenda kusurura huko, katia sehemu kidogo. Na tunataka masomo ya ukulima, kufuga ng'ombe, na hasa veterinary watuletee mbegu ile mzuri.
Once operational, the facility is expected to create hundreds of direct and indirect jobs. Terry Njenga, Channel 1 Business.
The Central Bank of Kenya has given the green light for liquidation of Chase Bank that was placed under receivership in April 2016. Central Bank Governor Dr. Patrick Njoroge says the move was necessitated by the lender's weakened position and has appointed the Kenya Deposit Insurance Corporation to execute the liquidation of the troubled lender.
The Central Bank of Kenya has approved the selling off of Chase Bank's assets to pay the remaining debts to its creditors and depositors. CBK Governor Patrick Njoroge says the regulator chose to adopt the Kenya Deposit Insurance Corporation report that called for liquidation of Chase Bank due to weakened financial position. KDIC submitted the receiver's report to CBK recommending that CBLIR be liquidated. The report indicates that considering the weak status of CBLIR's financial position, liquidation is the only feasible option. Njoroge added that CBK has assessed the recommendation by KDIC and considered that liquidation would facilitate the orderly resolution of the residual assets and liabilities of CBLIR in accordance with the laws of Kenya to protect the interest of CBLIR, depositors, its creditors, and the wider public interest. Subsequently, CBK has today, April 16, 2021, appointed the KDIC as a liquidator of CBLIR in terms of Section 53, subsection 2 and 54, subsection 1A of the Kenya Deposit Insurance Act 2012. KDIC will release information about the liquidation of CBLIR and payment of depositors in due course.
And now to the Kenya-Uganda trade talks. The likelihood of consuming Ugandan sugar in coming months has increased after Kenya agreed to allow the neighboring country to bring in 90,000 metric tons of the sweetener annually in bilateral talks that started on Sunday. This is contained in a joint communique shared Thursday by the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development that indicates that two countries have agreed to remove the tax barriers on some of each other's goods. The deal could also see Kenya lifting the stringent measures on Ugandan maize.
Kenya and Uganda have been locked in a trade war on some goods that has seen traders from each country protest the levies, with experts saying this was against the spirit of the East African community. Uganda remains Kenya's top export destination, accounting for 11.3% of Kenya's total exports in 2020 that were worth 72 billion shillings. To foster cordial trade relations, a Kenyan delegation led by Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development CS Betty Minor arrived in Kampala on Sunday on a 7-day visit aimed at improving bilateral relations. Among issues on the table were about Uganda's sugar, milk, maize, poultry products and LPG, as well as Kenya's manufactured juices, malted beers, spirits, furniture, pharmaceutical products, processed poultry meat, tissue paper and pishori rice. After a series of meetings, the two countries have resolved to address the issues. Under the deal, the Kenyan delegation have resolved to let Uganda export to Kenya 90,000 metric tons of sugar annually. However, this is on condition that an ongoing sugar sector verification mission affirms the sugar is made in Uganda. In addition, Kenya has resolved to remove 35% import duty on Ugandan LPG cylinders and consideration about milk products from Uganda. In return, Uganda has agreed to remove taxes, import duty and levies in July this year on a number of Kenyan products such as manufactured juices, malted beers, spirits, furniture, pharmaceutical products, books and processed poultry meat. In addition, the two countries have resolved that Kenya shares with Uganda the testing and conformity standards about maize. This is after Kenya imposed stringent measures on Ugandan maize on concerns that it had high aflatoxin levels. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
The U.S. retail sales rose by the most in 10 months in March as Americans received additional pandemic relief checks from the government and increased COVID-19 vaccinations boosted expectations for robust growth. The economic prospects was underscored by other data showing first-time claims for unemployment benefits reduced last week to the lowest level since March 2020. Here are the details of this and other stories from across the borders.
Retail sales in the U.S. rebounded 9.8% last month, the largest increase since May 2020. Data for February was revised higher to show sales dropping 2.7% instead of 3.0% as previously reported. March rises pushed the level of sales 17.1% above the pre-pandemic level and to a record high. Retail sales in the U.S. surged a record 27.7% on a year basis. The broad-based rebound was led by motor vehicles, with receipts at auto dealership accelerating 15.1%. Sales at clothing stores soared 18.3%. Consumers also boosted spending at restaurants and bars, leading to a 13.4% jump in receipts. Meanwhile, China economy grew a record 18.3% in the first quarter of 2021 compared to the same quarter last year. This is the biggest jump in gross domestic product since China started keeping quarterly records in 1992. However, Friday figures are heavily skewed and less indicative of strong growth as they are compared to last year's huge economic contraction. In the first quarter of 2020, China's economy shrank 6.8% due to the nationwide lockdown at the peak of COVID-19 outbreak. The figures from China's Statistics Department also point to a continuing rebound, but are also unusually strong because they are compared against extremely weak numbers from last year. Finally, Turkey's central bank banned the use of cryptocurrencies and crypto assets to purchase goods and services, citing irreparable possible damages and significant risks in such transactions. A growing boom in Turkey's crypto market had gained pace recently, with investors hoping to both gain from Bitcoin rallies and shelter against inflation. Turkey's annual inflation climbed above 16% in March. The ban on use of cryptocurrencies and other such digital assets based on distributed ledger technology takes effect end of this month. This saw Bitcoin falling 2.59% to $61,757 by mid-morning. Terry Njenga, Channel 1 Business.
Let's now get the sport. And Manchester United booked a Europa League semi-final with Roma after Edson Cavani's early strike sent them on their way to a 2-0 victory over Granada at Old Trafford, completing a 4-0 aggregate win last night. Elsewhere, Arsenal progressed to the last four after a 5-1 aggregate win over Slavia Praha following a 4-0 win in Czech.
Aggregate. At the Old Trafford, 2017 champions Manchester United is into the semi-finals after a 2-0 win over Granada, completing a 4-0 aggregate win and set up a date against Roma in the semis.
Telles, aimed towards Mata, and it's come off Vallejo and gone in. Well, that is a sad and frustrating end as far as the Spaniards are concerned.
The Italian side knocked out Ajax after a 3-1 aggregate win. The first leg of the semi-finals are scheduled for the end of this month, while the returning a week.
Ajax in front on the night. Pellegrini racing forward to support Dzeko and Mkhitaryan. Calafiori's done brilliantly. Here's Dzeko. And Edin Dzeko does what Edin Dzeko always does, it seems, in the UEFA Europa League.
Britain's Dan Evans produced the biggest win of his career after inflicting the first defeat of the year on world number one Novak Djokovic at the Monte Carlo Masters. Evans knocked out the Serbian in the last 16 in a 6-4, 7-5 win in Monaco. Meanwhile, 11-time champion Rafael Nadal powered into the quarterfinals after a 6-1, 6-1 win. And that's the latest at this hour. Thank you so much for keeping us company, for choosing Channel 1 for your latest news updates this Friday afternoon, including Calvin Socheng. You're saying you're tuned into Lunchtime News. Thank you so much. Good afternoon to you, and thank you for tuning in at Dare to Dream, that's what you're calling yourself on Twitter. And Benjamin Jukong, you're saying you are also tuned in to Lunchtime News. Thank you once again. I'm Purity Museo. Lucy Maura has been our sign language interpreter this afternoon. I'll see you again at 9, God willing. Do stay safe and God bless.